Welcome back to Briggs on Books, the international talk show where I get to talk to authors from all over the world about their books, what they've written, what was their inspiration, how did they finish writing a book, for goodness sakes. How many of us are trying to do that? Anyway, I am Mike Briggs, the host of the show, and we've been talking to authors this week from all over the world about their books. I have the best job in the world, by the way, because I read books all day, and then I talk to authors the other half of the day. Look at here. Let me see if I can bring this up. I think we already have her. Here she is, Delores Topliff. Welcome, Delores. Tell our viewers.
Thank you.
Tell our viewers where you're located.
Well, today I'm in northeastern Mississippi, but May 9th I'm going to head north to central Minnesota to a small farm we own with the best Amish neighbors in the world. And so I spend 6 months in each place. I used to make fun of snowbirds, and now I turned into one.
Turned into one, yeah. Now you have Amish neighbors now, and so you're kind of writing a book about Amish farming?
Yes, I am. And a friend of mine that you've interviewed looked at it and said that I love my very dear Amish neighbors so much that I made it too kind and sweet and gentle, and I have to go through it and add tension and conflict and even a bad guy, you know.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, the Amish are so nice, and that's, fascinating. So many people are fascinated with the Amish right now. We want to know about them because they're fascinating. Now, let's look at this book. Let me see if I can find the cover.
Let me add one P.S.
Yes.
I didn't want to offend them for the world, so I printed out about 25% of the book and let my immediate neighbor read it. And I would have ditched it if she were offended.
Yeah.
But she's not. She thinks it's great.
Yeah.
And they like my other books, especially Wilderness Wife, when you get there.
Yeah, by the way,
and so I have a green light from my neighbors to go ahead.
By the way, here's the cover of Wilderness Wife, which, by the way, you're a historian. Do you teach history?
I teach that and world geography. I'm an English and a history double major in graduate school.
Yeah, and I got a double. I got a master's in music and a master's in history, so I got to teach both in my college teaching days. So
Great.
That was a lot of fun. Now, tell us about this Wilderness Wife.
Well, I grew up in Vancouver, Washington, and that's Fort Vancouver. It used to be the end of the Oregon Trail, although Oregon City claims that they are, so there's a little competition there. And John and Marguerite McLaughlin established it in 1825, and everyone knew about Dr. John. And like the schools are named McLaughlin Heights Housing District, all kinds of things. And one day I got the nudge, what about his wife? And I wanted to look into her, and I found absolutely solid gold. She was the most amazing human, changed history really. And now some of her direct descendants read the book, have contacted me. They are awesome, and we're going to meet each other. And one of them, their Lutheran church in northern Michigan, is going to read the book in August, and I will also join them by Zoom and have fun.
Now, by the way, few of us get to do what we love. Like I said, here's my job. I get to talk to authors. I get to read books all day. You got to be to be a history teacher, and now you're getting to write the history that's around. It's all from your area, is that right?
Yes, definitely.
Now, you said even you're meeting the people that are the subjects of the book?
Well, they are her fourth and fifth generation granddaughters, but they know a lot about her. They've done DNA and all that, and I could fill in some blanks for them, and they're telling me some stories too.
Do you think it's an especially good time to be an historian with all this DNA and ancestry and stuff?
Well, it sure makes it, you're more sure of the results, and it solves some mysteries and raises some questions that people didn't have before.
Right. Now, some of the people, of course, in this family are still alive.
Exactly.
And you're able to maybe solve some mysteries for them?
And you know what else there is? There are photos of Marguerite. She was half Swiss and half Cree or Chippewa. And one of the fifth generation granddaughters, no kidding, she resembles,
oh my goodness,
not only in personality, in the strengths of character, as I've talked with these women, and we've been in a American Christian Fiction Writers National Book Club, and they joined by Zoom, and it was fun to connect that way. One of them resembles her physically and in their characteristics and their gentle but strong mannerisms. It's like, oh my word, she is alive and here with us.
Yeah.
I was just thrilled.
That is amazing. I find as I study more and more of this ancestry and genealogy, how these traits are hereditary that you would think maybe were not, but they are.
And now they've persuaded me to write the sequel, which it was so much material and such a long period, but now I've learned some skills where I can compress it and just choose the highlights and keep some tension going.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll take a while, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's part of keeping the reader interested, isn't it? Getting some tension in there and resolve the tension and stuff. That's where you.
That's right, but not too easily.
Not too easily, right. Now, this book is out, of course. Let me find the cover again. Here it is. And Wilderness Wife. Tell us about the person. I mean, I know you've talked about it a little before, but who is this Wilderness Wife?
Well, she was living probably in Manitoba, Canada. Her father was from Switzerland, and he named her after his mother, Marguerite. It's not a typical half, Cree or Chippewa name. And she married Alexander Mackay, who was from New York State, and everything was fine for 17 years. They had 3 girls and a son. And then his cousin, Alexander Mackenzie, conscripted him to go with him and solve the question, could you reach the Pacific Ocean overland? And they succeeded and carved the Alexander Mackenzie's name on the rock there. And for that, he was knighted, and his life took a drastic turn. Well, Alex Mackay came home to Marguerite, and he said, I love you, it's been great, but every man has one chance in life to, achieve his fortune, and I'm going to Montreal to achieve mine. He took their son, but not the girls. He sent them to another fort at Sault Ste. Marie, and she thought her life was over. And he distinguished himself with a certain amount of bravery in a hard situation later, but it was the end of their wilderness marriage. There were not clergy or priests that far west, so it was like, I'll hunt the food, I'll build the cabin, you cook the meals and have the kids.
Right.
So wilderness, it was la façon de la Nord, the fashion of the North, an agreement, and it was quite more common than we think.
By the way, you talk about the history, and she married somebody, I think you said, from New York, but a lot of Canadians aren't from Canada. It seems like everybody's descended from someplace else.
Scotland is one place where very many came from.
In Canada, yeah. And,
in the fur trader days,
in
yes.
The fur trader days, and of course France and other places.
For sure.
Yeah. And a lot of Native American tribes there.
Yes, my mother had 1/64th. So that's not much. I probably lost it when I cut my finger or something.
Yeah.
But, these were people that did great things. Marguerite was heroic. After she was abandoned, she thought her life was over. But she met John McLaughlin and helped him, like in surgeries, and had practical woodland knowledge of things that were good for health. And he was 9 years younger, and she thought he might be interested in her older daughter. And then you'll find out in the spoiler report, he goes, yeah. So she said, well, I was married to one white man in a higher position and got dumped. I don't want to get burned again. But they've eventually formed an amazing marriage and family, and she was truly his helpmeet and honestly changed history.
Wow.
In the Pacific Northwest.
I love these kind of research projects. I love to read these books where somebody's really researched it and put their time into it, and it comes through when you do that. Who's going to read this book, Delores?
Well, it's quite popular, and it's I've even kids in junior high and high like it for the straight adventure, but even senior citizens, I mean the fourth generation grandmother related to Marguerite is retired and everything, and so she is spreading the word where they spend winters in retirement communities in Central Florida.
Wow.
So the whole gamut.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, do young people, when they read this, they get this isn't just a story. This is a real thing that happened. These are real people.
Exactly. And that your life can count, your choices can, and you contribute. I mean, John McLaughlin, he was at the fort at the end of the Oregon Trail, and as American settlers came in their wagon trains, they arrived with their seed rotted, sick, usually out of food, and he was employed by the Hudson's Bay Company.
Yeah.
And they said, don't help those American immigrants. If they succeed, they're going to end up occupying and claiming the land. It'll turn into America.
Yeah.
But he was a physician as well as a businessman and fur trader in charge of a fort. And he had taken the oath to cause no harm, and he said, I can't do that. So first, he and Marguerite spent every bit of their personal wealth to finance, and finally, the Hudson's Bay still told him to bar them and keep them out. And he opened the doors of the fort and said, take what you need.
Yeah.
And he got fired.
Got fired,
So-
yeah.
Yeah. So they moved to Oregon City, built a modest home and sawmill and store, but they made the hallways and the porches larger. So there was always room for like hospital beds to care for the sick. They both did that. And eventually they were called the father and mother of the Pacific Northwest, and she is called the kindest woman in Oregon.
Wow.
And that's a pretty decent title to have.
That's amazing, yeah. Everybody should read this book. I love this kind of book. Do you make your students read it?
I don't make them, but they think it's cool to have a teacher that writes books.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I'm going to give this book to some people. I love strong women stories.
Good for you.
Stories where there's strong women who overcome.
Well, she is, I
so
tell you,
much.
I guarantee it.
Yeah. Now, tell us, Delores, where are we going to find this book?
Well, it's on Amazon and Sparks, Ingram Sparks, any major place. So
All the usual places. I also have
Yes.
on the screen, of course, your web address, which I can't see from here, but it looks a lot like your name.
it is
And tell our viewers what it is.
DeloresTopliff.com.
Easy.
And there are 7 ways to spell Delores.
Yes.
So it's, in fact, I used to get called delirious in school, but the way you spell mine is Delores. And then Topliff, as I was telling you, used to be Top Cliff, but now it's TOP, no C anymore, LIFF.com.
Yeah. And of course, for our viewers, if you look below, the web address is there. I have links to Amazon and other places where you can buy the book. Also, I think we have your Instagram address up there, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you do.
And what else do you want our viewers to know? I could talk to you all day, Delores.
Well, great. Growing up there, I loved the Columbia River. We had I was about 9 years old. We had a small library across the road, and I was in there every day. And that librarian was so good to me. And she said, what are you going to be when you grow up? I read more books than anybody else. And I said, maybe a librarian like you.
Yeah.
But I feel sorry for people up and down the Columbia River that don't have libraries.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get a boat and fill it with books and go up and down the river and provide those. And lo and behold, I found out later that in June of '42, an I-25 Japanese sub entered the river, fired on a military base, and hit the volleyball court, missed the ammo dump by 50 yards.
Huh.
It would have changed history. They didn't tell the public for 50 years because they didn't want us to panic. But anyway, I took those situations and wrote books afloat, and it's based on real people, real things that happened in that time. And then the sequel is Strong Currents. And one of my 3 college roommates was from Austria. Ingeborg Overmeyer. She's passed away, sadly, 2 weeks before that book came out, but she knew it was coming. And her parents, her dad was an elementary school teacher when Austria was taken over by Hitler. And there was a knock on the door telling him to report for active military duty. He said, I'm a teacher, I've never held a gun. They said, too bad, report or go to jail. He was killed 9 days later. The mother with 3 little kids, went to her mother's home in Germany and noticed that the railroad tracks behind the house, they had a garden, they could raise food, but the railroad tracks were very busy, and the neighbors said, don't ask questions, it's better if you don't know. And the town was Dachau. So Inga was telling me, and I said to her at the time, we're young, and I said, somebody should put that in a book. Well, I didn't know it would be me. So I have a young woman in that situation, and this is a bit fiction, but added Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and she wanted to stay and help, and he said, no, you've got relatives in the Columbia River area, you'll be safe there, you need to get out. So she's on the river along with other people from the first book.
Okay.
And so it weaves that together.
These are the kind of books I like to read, Delores. I was promising I'm going to get them. Do you have any on the, what do you call, where you, electronic, you read them electronically?
Well, yes, these are all available on Kindle.
Kindle.
And can I tell you about 2 more?
Yes, please do. I just want to tell you, I just got Kindle today or yesterday, so I think I'll do your books first. Which book should I start with of yours?
Well, if you like Wilderness Why, fine. Otherwise, start with Books Afloat.
Books Afloat, yeah.
And then this is the Swedes and the Norwegians up in Wisconsin and Minnesota are competitive rascals. And they do have Christmas tree farms. And so this Norwegian, his people, cleared the land, improved it, but taxes got bad, and and the worst thing in the world happened. A Swede bought the other half of his farm.
Oh boy.
And
there's
so it's
a story
kind of
right
like,
there.
you can predict one has a son and the other has a niece, and they're trying to help solve the finances. And one way to solve that is to have a tree winning for the Rockefeller Plaza or the National whatever they call that mall, or the White House Christmas tree. And they get along very well. And in fact, they had a crush during high school, and maybe the fellow carved the girl's initials on a tree that later won one of those contests. Now, but if it's true love, you might change the label and let someone else win.
Yes. Now, these are true stories, right?
Well, not exactly, but it's true in terms of the first lady decorating the tree, and in this case it was Lady Bird Johnson, 1966.
Nice.
And then one more.
Please do. Do you have any of the covers to hold up?
Yeah.
Perfect.
This is Christmas Tree Wars.
All right. Yes.
And here's where, on the tree, once you carve your initials in there, the tree keeps it keeps growing.
Yep.
So that's proof who did it. And then I was basically minding my own business like I don't usually do. And I was teaching in a good small, actually a Christian private college up in British Columbia, Canada, on the Alaska Highway. And I wanted to start teaching archaeology. And so I only had like 2 paperback books. And lo and behold, this fellow arrived to visit who had been teaching archaeology, endowed a 10-room museum in Salem, Oregon, and had been traveling. At one point, he spent 7 years in Israel without coming back. And so he heard, I didn't tell him, I was too smart to tell him. I was embarrassed, I didn't have anything. And so he came and said, would I mind if he sent me wonderful color slides, books, maps, replicas, and even some original items. And that was great. When they came, we opened it, the school kids, you could smell in winter when there's snow outside and you open up like clay lamps and everything, and he told me what kind of oil to use, how to light them, and the kids' faces, they'll never forget, and I won't forget what their faces were like. Well, then he said he would like to pay my way if I would go in 1984 and work on some digs and come back and teach it. And that actually happened. And it was so amazing. I loved it so much that from then on, I worked hard at forest fire, bookkeeping, and identification, vegetation identification for the Department of Forestry in summers, and sent myself 8 more times.
Wow.
So I've been there 9 times. I maintained some really great friendships there. So this book is half memoir and half travelogue, things to do. And in fact, a very experienced world traveler had a tour set with 2 guides, one in Jordan, one in Israel. She read this, she offered to just, preview it, and she changed her itinerary based on this book, and we've become friends since. It was just the neatest thing. So, A Traveling Grandma's Guide to Israel, Adventures, Wit, and Wisdom.
Nice. Beautiful. I'm going to Israel, so I want to read that book.
Wonderful. When are you going?
Where is it? In Jordan, where the buildings are carved into the
Petra.
Did you get to go there?
No, not yet. But I almost I drive our little groups, and the GPS took me. It said that it was to a baptismal site, the one where the mines have been removed now, and. But it sent me down one road too early, and it was a Jordanian crossing, and they came at us with machine guns and asked what we were up to. So my trips end up always being exciting. Yeah. Nobody is bored.
Is that in the book?
Oh, yes.
The Grandma's Guide?
Yeah.
Nice. I like that. Yeah. I don't have a date set for Israel, just the dream.
That's great.
I'll have to work some summers. What are the things you did to earn money during the summers to go travel?
I've worked for U.S. Forestry and also not just British Columbia, Alberta, Canadian Forestry, and done plant identification for the Canada's Department of Agriculture. Nice. And when you're out there, boy, I have seen wildlife, and on the forest fires, they had to get us, you're there weeks at a time sometimes. They were bad. And so they'd say, well, we're going to send you home in the spotter plane. And I got to see things where there aren't even roads, just double waterfalls coming out of mountains. One time they were fueling a helicopter, and they were in such a rush and so tired that the fuel hose was still attached. It took off, the fuel sprayed, and you've got fire there. So we had to drive through the fire line. Yeah. You just go fast, and my own sons were about 16 and 14, and went to work helping fight the fire, needing a haircut, and the fire jumped the road, and one had to lie in a ditch, and he came home not needing a haircut anymore.
No haircut needed, yeah. Amazing.
And he didn't get burned. We were just so thankful.
Yeah. I don't know why, Delores, but whenever you're on the show, we go way past time. You're fascinating. You're so fun to talk to. You've got all these great stories. And that's why people need to get the books.
Okay.
And by the way, I have your web address on the screen, right? Or we talked about that already. And
I do blog posts, every 2 weeks, and send out a newsletter, things like that.
Very good. Any last thoughts you want to share with our viewers?
Well, history is alive, and you can learn. The scenery where we are right now, it's amazing. Like here, where I am in northeastern Mississippi, this is Civil War country. Yeah. And I might even find a small cannonball in my own yard here.
Amazing.
Wow. I want to get a metal detector and check it. Yeah. But anyway, it's a pleasure to talk with you. You do a great job.
Yeah. Well, you're a storyteller, Delores. I love to talk to you. For our viewers, go check out our website. Find our books out on Amazon. All those places her books are there. In fact, I'll put some links to them in the post here when I post this on YouTube. So thank you, Delores.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And we'll talk to you next time.
Sounds great.